Possession 3D.
Silence.
Harvest.
Strange Eons Radio presents the Amityville Horror Picture Show. That's Eric over there.
Hello.
And I am Kelly, and we are your hosts on this strange journey of the Amityville film franchise, of which there are 30-something entries as of this recording. In fact, everyone has been talking about the Amityville in Space movie that's coming out this month as we're recording this. By the time you hear this, there are already 3 more entries coming out this year. Wow. So the quick facts are there are so many entries because the Amityville murders, the Lutzes, the DeFeos, all of that stuff are public fact, and there is no copyright on the name Amityville. So each episode features a revolving door of guest hosts. Today, I am thrilled to announce that our host is raconteur, Renaissance man, and man about town, Carlos Zamora.
Howdy.
Hey, Carlos. What a thrill to have you here. Can you take
Thank you.
30 seconds and brag about yourself?
You know, I don't have much. I have my own podcast. I talk about art, sports, crazy stuff with a whole bunch of different people. But I just like to talk, basically, and have a few drinks. And you can find me on CZ Media Podcast.
It's a nice shirt you got on there.
It is, you know, I like to rep the homies, like to support.
Carlos was fine enough to bring us the mixings for mimosas today, and I'm starting to think we might have to make this a regular thing.
You can't go wrong with mimosas, man.
Very true.
Carlos, I really wanted to get you in here because you're a little bit younger than us, and you weren't born in this country. Now, if you're old enough... Well, the thing is, the Amityville Horror is kind of an American folk story, and if you're the age of Eric and I, you were the right age to buy into all of this bullshit. Yeah. So I'm curious, as you were growing up, was this even a blip on your radar, the Amityville Horror?
Yeah, but I've always dug horror movies as a little kid. You know, the slashers mostly, but I did know a little bit about Amityville, but not too much where I can say, oh, I know this whole story. But, you know, Mexicans have their own folklores too that you can associate a whole bunch of stuff to.
Yeah, but I mean, in the last episode, we all talked about how at our age, this was on the news and everything. We thought this was real. Was that ever anything in your...
No. No, but I think I've always been that way though. That if you see it on TV, unless it's a news person in a suit telling you that it's real, it's not real.
Well, that's kind of how it was, though, back then in 77 or 75.
We're talking interviews on the Today Show kind of things with bringing the Lutz in and talking to them, and the who's the charlatans that...
Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Yeah,
charlatans.
We're not huge fans.
No, I have a buddy who loves them.
But they were sort of respected at that time as maybe they're really on to something kind of people, as opposed to what's been exposed about them since then. So it was very different. It was and there's 3 channels on TV.
Right.
And there's no internet. You wanted to learn things, you go to the library or something.
Then if you're speaking about it in that way, I had that from church.
Oh, there you go.
So growing up in church, I went to a Pentecostal church, which are very fire and brimstone type of organization. And they would, as a little kid, they would show us these videos of how Ozzy Osbourne is satanic.
Oh. Wow.
And how this one kid in somewhere USA was possessed from listening to Ozzy. So my parents the church would show these videos, these on projectors, right? And then we would see them. But I remember thinking, man, these videos are pretty cool. And then I was try to go and look for them. And actually, not that long ago, I was doing a YouTube hunt for these for these videos. It's from, I can't remember the name of the organization, but it was one organization mostly that made a whole bunch of these satanic panic type of videos, but for churches. And they would show them. So
were you able to find any of them?
Some of them, they didn't age very well.
Yeah, definitely not.
But as watching those as a kid, I'm like, yeah, tell me more about this Satan.
Well, yeah, the Amityville Horror, The Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby, those all kind of planted seeds for what became, Satanic Panic in the mid to late 80s.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's dive into this. This episode, we are talking about the Amityville Horror 2, The Possession.
The night of February 5th, 1976, George and Kathleen Lutz and their 3 children fled their home in Amityville, New York, and never returned. For them, the horror was over. Their living nightmare shocked audiences around the world in the Amityville Horror. But before them, another family lived in this house and were caught by the original evil. The Lutzes escaped with their lives, but the previous owners weren't so lucky.
Look at it! Oh, it's ours! Heavenly Father, bless our new home and watch over us as we become a part of
For
this
the
community.
Montelli family, it was their dream house until it turned into a nightmare.
Who's there?
I'm scared.
What was in this house?
No.
What evil could drive their son to madness and destroy everything and everyone he loved?
Mommy!
Now, Amityville II, The Possession. Amityville II, The Possession.
Came out in 1982 with a budget of $5 million, a box office of $12.5 million. The Rotten Tomatoes critics give it 16%, and the audience gives it 36%. It was directed by Damiano Damiani.
Sounds right.
This was his American directorial debut. He had done a ton of thrillers, crime, and historical dramas. I think this was his only out-and-out horror film, unless you have any
I
more.
didn't see any that struck me as that. He's got some giallo stuff. And
Yeah.
some very, very Italian mafia movies and things.
Yeah, he didn't speak any language or any English, so there were translators on set to
Nice.
convey his instructions to the crew and the actors. This was based on the book Murder in Amityville by Hans Holzer. Do you have any idea who Hans Holzer was?
I don't.
He was a very famous parapsychologist in the 60s and 70s.
Okay.
I would say that he did a big research on the murders in Amityville and came to a conclusion that I would say, based on what we know now, means he didn't know anything about parapsychology. So, because he was all on board with the possession and everything like that.
There you go.
The coolest part for me is this was adapted by Tommy Lee Wallace.
Yeah.
He had also written and directed Halloween 3, Fright Night 2, and the original It miniseries. So it stars Jack Magner as Sonny. This and Firestarter are his only 2 credits. Yeah. I thought he was pretty decent in this, but did anybody get a poor man's Mark Hamill vibe out of him?
Oh, geez. Yeah, I can
Yeah,
see that.
the
In
hair.
some scenes,
Yeah.
yeah. Diane Franklin as Patricia, every 80 guy's crush. She was in Last American Virgin, Better Off Dead, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Terror Vision, and, spoiler alert, this is not her last Amityville movie.
No, it's not.
Yeah. James Olsen is Father Adamski. He was that guy in 70s and 80s TV. I remember him best from his appearance in the Battlestar Galactica episodes Gun on Ice Planet Zero. He passed away in April 17th of this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Jeez.
And then the other one I'll mention is Burt Young as Anthony. 166 credits.
Love that guy.
It's still working. I think everyone probably remembers him best as Paulie in the Rocky
Paulie.
movies. Chinatown, Once Upon a Time in America, Back to School, of course. So, okay, we'll start off. This purports to be the true story of the family that lived in the house before the Lutzes moved in.
Yeah.
So first, it's based on the book by Hans Holzer. Murder in Amityville is just one of 140-ish books that he wrote on paranormal
Wow.
activities, 5 of which were Amityville related.
Well, when you're just making shit up, you can barrel those things out.
So in his book, Holzer writes that he believed that Ronald DeFeo was possessed by the spirit of an Indian chief that was buried somewhere in the vicinity of the house.
Of course.
Not underneath the house, because that could be found.
Right.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
So right off the bat, I think that we need to talk a little bit how this movie is a direct prequel to the Amityville Horror, but it changes the names of the family that lived there, from the DeFeos to the Mantellis for some reason. I imagine this was to avoid lawsuits, not from DeFeo, because he was in prison and had claimed that he had been possessed, so that becomes fact, but probably by George and Kathy Lutz, who wanted the second movie to be based on John G. Jones's Amityville II book.
Okay.
Because did you guys? I know, Eric, you didn't really get into reading the books, and Carlos, you don't know how to read. So,
I mean, public education served me well.
So I read these books literally in middle school and grade school because we had book fairs, and you could just
You could
check
just
off
go.
these boxes, and then I got Psycho 2 that way, and Amityville 2, all this stuff. And
See, where were your parents?
my mom was just like, "Can I read that when you're done with that?"
Yeah. See, that's what I got too.
One time I brought home a book from a book fair that had a picture of a dragon with like a wizard riding it.
Yes.
And I don't remember what the name of the book was, but I got a whooping. And she took the book and then she took the book back to school.
She beats you like the dad in Amityville 2 beats his kids whenever anything happens.
And the similarities there end.
That's good. No possession.
It didn't matter because they did sue him and they got zero money for it. They sued De Laurentiis, who was the producer. They got no money for it, but they did get like some kind of thing on the poster that said that George and Kathy Lutz are not affiliated with this movie in any way. So
Most of the country read that and goes, "Who the hell are those two?"
Or the Lutz.
show us the demons. So we meet the Montellis moving in. Like in the first film, this is the house of their dreams, right? There is some pretty ham-fisted acting going on in this first scene when they show up, and it's pretty clear that these guys are not the Brady Bunch family.
No. Well, I watched this cold. I didn't look. I don't know if it seemed vaguely familiar. I might have watched it a long time ago, but
Okay.
because like we talked in the first one, I was all in on Amityville, and when it came out that it was all BS, I was done with it. So I have not watched a lot of these films. So I didn't realize it was the prequel. I just sort of thought it was your regular old rehashing of the same story, like so many sequels did in the early 80s and late 70s. And so I'm like, wow, the dad's a dick from word one. Where are they going to build this to? He doesn't got to be possessed by the house to turn into an asshole. He just has to step out of his car. So
Did he shoot this in between Rocky movies?
Yeah,
And it was
yeah,
still
it would
poly
be.
character merged into there?
You know what? That's a good point because he is kind of playing
He
Paulie,
has
right?
the cigar.
the half drunk all the time sort of
Yeah.
way of speaking.
That's funny. So pretty quickly, things start happening.
That's what I like about this movie.
The blood comes out of the tap like immediately,
Yeah.
right? I'll just say this. Rutanya Alda plays the mom. She's been in The Fury, Mommy Dearest, Vigilante, 112 credits. And she is quite bad in this. I mean, she...
Checked out, man.
She overacts so much. When she sees the blood coming out of the tap, she's just...
I think I would attribute that a little bit to an Italian director, because there is so much in this movie that feels so Italian.
Yeah.
The way it's shot, the way it's acted, the over-the-top crap at times like that. I almost feel like there's probably a moment or two where he just, go for it. And she kind of checked out after that and just like, whatever, man. What do you want me to do?
I don't know. I can see my wife reacting that way. Something that looked like blood came out of them.
Okay, but then it clears up and she just kind of goes,
It's like, Shh. Yeah, I can see that.
It might have been rust. It might have been horrible stuff, but apparently it's clear now and our sink is good.
Well, and she has the same reaction to every single thing, like
Yes.
when the air brushes against her in the basement. She also lets out this blood-curdling scream, and everything is just the worst thing in the world that could possibly happen every time it happens.
Something touched me or someone touched me. It's like, whoa. Where? Are you all right?
I was surprised to see the tunnels under the house make an appearance. I know we'll be talking about this probably 2 years in the future, but in the remake of the Amityville Horror, that's a huge thing. Did you guys see that with Ryan Reynolds?
Oh, I don't remember a whole lot of it, but I did see it. I liked it. Remember?
I think it was pretty bad, but the tunnels were a huge part of that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I guess I forgot that this was even a thing.
Yeah.
So,
I remember. I've seen that one. It was because I think we watched it for Dead
Oh,
Again
that's right,
a long time
yeah.
ago. Because it just didn't. It was one of those films that like, here's your horror beat. Oh, you missed it, and there it is.
Yeah.
But it still isn't. It was very weird. But
Yeah, I remember it being so.
I like that they spent a good 15 seconds looking for a flashlight when the contractor was down, when the mover was down there, and he had one clipped on his belt the whole time. I mean, I'm sure that was some money in that film used for
there's
that.
something there. Yes.
I feel like if the dad had seen the flashlight, he would have just started beating his kids.
That's right.
So we get hints of an incestuous relationship pretty early on when Sonny and Patricia are hanging out in the room, sitting way too close to each other when they sit
Yeah,
down.
that's weird.
It is
And
weird,
the
right?
conversation they had was this weird flirty shit. I'm like, okay, I don't have a sister. I couldn't imagine ever speaking to a sister that way, or even somebody I consider just a good friend of the other of the opposite. I was like, this is off.
Well, weren't they talking about Hooter size?
Yeah.
They were talking about Hooter
I mean,
size.
I could talk about Hooter size with pretty much anyone, but I think I would draw the line at a sister.
I have 2 older sisters, and we've never had a conversation like that. But that makes me feel maybe they just weren't interested in me.
So what did you do?
I don't know.
One take, sure.
I like, excuse me, when the messages start appearing on the wall, Dad assumes it's by the youngest kids. Those kids were played by real life sister and brother Erica and Brent Katz. And these kids are so believably bratty
Yeah.
that I can understand how quickly Dad starts to beat on
Just
them.
that's like straight to anger.
Yeah, it's just like, I have had so much of your shit. God.
I had a tough day at the meat packing plant. I don't want to put up with this. You're out.
And that's the scene where we get Sonny putting the shotgun up against Dad's chin there. There is some really ham-fisted acting going on in this scene. I like that after the dad has been beating on the kids and the son comes up and puts a gun under his chin, she takes the gun away from him in a odd way.
Very weird shot.
And then she says, "What have we become?"
Right.
And I'm like, you guys have been there for 4 days.
Yeah,
And this shit
so
has
quick.
clearly been going on for a long time. You haven't
Yeah.
just become anything.
Didn't she take it out of her like
She just-
both hands
yeah,
and
just
just walked right through it?
Yep, it was very strange.
It was, yeah, I mean, there is so much Italian cinematography
Yeah.
going on in this. And I guess, yeah, the acting just, I can just imagine him with like the, what do you call the Barker blowhorn or something yelling through that.
Yes.
And then
some
some
weird Italian stuff.
Yeah, some translator standing next to the actor going, "Okay, he'd really like you to push it up a notch." So the priest shows up to bless the house, and he shakes Sonny's hand, and the house goes crazy in
Yeah.
the kitchen for some reason, dumps everything in the kitchen,
Full
and the dad
poltergeist.
goes in and slaps the kids
Right.
in front of the priest.
In front of the priest.
You got to be pretty confident of your child beating lifestyle
Yep.
to do it in front of anybody else, but a priest
Or
especially.
has he seen his kids do these supernatural things? And it's like
Oh.
if the Incredibles dad were Polly and it was like the baby had done something really fast and it's like, you again with your supersonic speed. I told you to stop it.
It does seem
That's
like
it,
one of
yeah.
those things where in any household, I think that you'd hear that huge crash, you'd walk in, see all that damage in these 2 kids, and you would immediately go, "What happened?"
What happened?
Not
Yeah,
you guys
Why did you do
this.
this?
How did you do all of this in like 30 seconds?
It's possible, yeah.
So, I mean, they had to have done it before then.
There's a weird lack of buildup in this film. It's so like I'm that scene with the shotgun. I'm going, okay, is this because of the house, or is this just because of this asshole dad and the oldest son has had enough?
Right.
You don't really know.
The entire buildup is the first movie.
Yeah, exactly.
They expect you to go in. The only reason you were going in is because you've seen the first movie.
Yeah, double bill.
Well, then the mirror part too is weird.
Yeah.
Because when it fell, the first thing I thought was, why didn't it break?
Right.
Because every other time a mirror breaks, it falls, it breaks. But then he blamed the kid for not
Not hanging it.
not hanging
right.
it correctly. It was like, what did the dad do? It's like, usually that's like the dad thing. It's like, you talk to your wife, where do you want to hang this mirror?
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, Polly was on a different level here.
Except that it looked like the house was like partially furnished when they moved in.
Right.
Yep.
So
They moved. Yeah, that's a whole lot of moving in a little time.
yeah. Well, it's a big place, 5,000 square feet.
I bought a house 5 months ago. I'm still moving in,
Yeah, exactly.
and it's not even nearly that big.
We get a scene that I really liked. That's the voice coming through the Walkman headphones.
Oh, that was good.
That ties into all of my love of horror and heavy metal mixing together and all that, even if it is a little anachronistic, because this would have supposedly taken place in 74.
Oh,
The
right.
Walkman comes out in 79.
Yep. Yeah. Little off there.
Yeah. And then we finally get the scene that probably, if you've seen this movie, is the scene you remember. That's the creepy, incestuous scene where Sonny is telling Patricia how beautiful she is, tells her to get naked, shows her panties to her.
It's like, okay, I'll just take my nightgown off.
It's so sleazy.
But why did she agree to this so quickly?
I mean, there's clearly some feelings going on between these two.
So this isn't the first time.
This scene had a setup. Like
Right.
a lot of stuff they
The
had
Hooter talk
earlier.
before,
Yeah,
and then-
exactly.
Carlos,
I mean,
I'm
he
gonna
did.
talk
I mean,
about
it's not
them.
like he just said get naked. He did give a premise. He's like, pretend you're a model,
Right.
And I'm a
He's
photographer.
like, let's role play.
I mean, I like to take pictures of chicks. This tactic
we
works.
we should probably interject here that you are also a photographer.
Yes. A real photographer, not in like a I forget that serial killer's name. Well, anyway, not in this type of photographer's way, but people pay me to
About
take
Peeping
pictures
Tom,
of.
or what?
No, that serial killer that was part of Mine Hunters who used photography.
a
as
real
a-
silicone.
Oh, okay. All right, Carlos. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. Your thoughts on sleeping with your sister?
Well, I don't have a sister. I would like to think that it would be a firm no.
Yeah.
If I actually did have one.
Okay. Well, second part to this question: if your sister's Diane Franklin, what are your thoughts on sleeping with her?
I'm brown, so she's probably not my crush at this age.
Okay.
Probably not.
Okay, Eric. You going to take a strong
Diane
stance
Franklin,
against
man, I mean-
incest all of a sudden?
I'm an only child, so it's really not going to occur for me. And,
Did you ever role play? Any girlfriends or anything?
Nope.
Like, listen,
Doesn't
pretend
really
you're my
appeal to me.
sister.
They did read, though, that the scene was much longer.
Yes, they actually shot the sex scene
Ugh.
and then they cut it out. Apparently, the audience responded poorly to
Very
it.
prudes. I thought they were supposed to be freer back in the
Back in the 70s.
back in the 70s.
Free love, but not with your sister. I think that we have always kind of had a don't ask, don't tell policy. Or is that just me?
But okay, so
You're the one with sisters, and you didn't answer the question.
right.
I already know the answer.
I mean, I don't. We talked about it before, so that's why I just didn't ask. But see, so as I was thinking, this scene unfolded, right? He very easily gave this scenario, and he didn't ask twice. He didn't try to talk her into it. She gave maybe 0.5 seconds of hesitance, and then she's like, okay, and then so this could not have been the first time that this happened. And then if it wasn't the first time and the dad knew, that could kind of tie into how angry he is because he's completely lost control of his family.
I think you're putting out thoughts that would have explained a lot if the filmmakers had thought
done
of
it.
them and given any kind of hint that maybe that's what was going on, and it would have made the scene a little less sleazy. Or even, I was thinking that it's clear that Sonny is being possessed by the house.
Yeah, he's getting all
But-
clammy.
Yeah, but it would have been more interesting to me, I think, and very easy to do, to show that the entire family was kind of being twisted in a way, and that might explain why she went along with something like this also.
Yeah.
But that is not the case.
No,
either.
no, they're just all hanging out, watching shit go down.
Weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so we decided no on the sex with your sister.
I'm going to say that probably not a good
An
idea,
easy no. Okay.
Probably.
All right.
unless your sister is Diane Franklin. There is this weird scene where Sonny is apparently alone in the house, and the camera angle starts to go crazy. And I thought that I got a real Evil Dead vibe out of all of that. Did you guys feel
Yes.
that way?
Yeah.
I was wondering if there was, because Evil Dead was what, 81?
Yeah.
This is 82. So could there have possibly been any, or is that just an Italian thing that Sam Raimi was doing in Evil Dead?
Well, that is definitely an Italian thing, that weird long shots. They do crazy ass shots. Lots. That's a large portion why Giallo's so interesting, is the way that they do crazy shit with their camera.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a bad influence, though, if you saw that.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
on
In fact,
par.
you know, I watched this movie like 3 times for this. And that scene I hated the first time. And by the third time, I was like, this is pretty effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Yeah, I
working
liked
out
it.
pretty well. Although I didn't understand where everybody else was.
To the church.
They were at the church at night for this one?
That's what I thought too. I was like, what does it take 3 hours to get to this church?
Where's your church, buddy?
Because then when the sister comes in on the next scene, they're like, oh, we were at the church.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. Because he shoots the gun in the house a couple
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
Nobody notices that.
No.
No.
The
Just
house
were
was
these-
empty at that point, I thought. But
Okay. Well, then also though, the come home, the dad who's willing to beat at a moment's notice, he's like, "Were these bullet holes in the floor when we moved in?"
yes, Dad.
Yeah,
Where
because
are
the
the
dad
kids
went to
at?
go apologize. He went to go apologize to the priest.
That's right. That didn't go over very well.
Yeah,
No.
And then during that same scene is that the crazy effects where the demon takes over and kind of gets in through his belly button or something.
Right.
I thought that was also really corny, and then by the third time, very effective.
No, I dug it.
Yeah.
So it was clearly not just a guy sucking in his gut and letting out, which
Oh,
I'm
actually,
happy
you know
to
what I
do.
thought? I turned over to wife and I said, when I was thinner, I could suck in my gut that much, but I can't anymore because I'm
she
super
believe
fat. She did. I think I said, do you remember when I used to do that? Because that's called the vacuum pose. I tie it into bodybuilding. That's called the vacuum pose in bodybuilding.
Wow. Okay. Did she just tap you on the shoulder and be like, "Yeah, I remember
And then
those
she
days."
tapped my belly.
Belly, rubbed it,
A long
made a
time
wish.
ago, wasn't it?
I really like that scene. Obviously, this is the time where bladder effects are being used everywhere. The Howling and American Werewolf are doing this, and I thought that they used this pretty well here too.
Oh, yeah.
Also, the one scene that really stood out to me was when he's up in the room and he calls Patricia up and then tells her, I don't want to see you. And she goes downstairs crying, and the mom confronts her and then slaps her. It's like, well, everybody likes to throw a fist around in this family.
I mean,
Right.
this is not the Brady Bunch.
No, these kids have, spoiler alert, they're going to get blown away here in the next few minutes. But if they had grown up, they would have been pretty trashy humans.
I mean, or
Yeah.
like MIT professors.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
Being
Either the
raised-
top or just.
MIT
In
professors who beat the shit out of other professors and
Students.
students.
No, that math's wrong. Come here.
I will say this: the one thing with mom slapping her is such an ugly scene that at that point I was like, I can't wait for you all to get murdered.
Yeah.
I was just like, you all deserve.
Wow.
There is not an innocent person in this family.
Even the little kids.
No chance for redemption
No.
in Kelly's book.
No.
No.
So anyway,
done.
it's not long before Sonny is stalking the house with a shotgun, murdering his parents and siblings in cold blood, and very much different from what we heard of the story in the first movie.
Yeah.
Because the first movie opens with the murders, and it's a pretty chilling scene, and he shoots everybody in their beds, and they're all found face down. There was the big lightning storm. Neighbors didn't hear shotgun because of the thunder, supposedly. And I thought that was really weird because, to your point, Eric, this could then be. They showed us one thing in the prequel. They show us a completely different thing, and now it feels like, well, maybe this is a sequel. It's not the right names, and he's killing everybody else differently.
The brother or the son, not the dad.
Right.
So it's like there's all kinds of.
Well, the son was the murderer in the DeFeos, but also, this, what's his name? James Magner, something like that. Jack Magner. He looks so different from the Ronald DeFeo character that they went to great lengths to make what's his name from the first movie resemble, with the beard and the shaggy hair and all of that stuff. So it is a weird thing where it's like, could this be a sequel to the Amityville Horror and not a prequel?
Right. It's got a lot of. It sits alone as its own film in many ways.
Yes, I think as we go through the Amityville franchise, we'll find out that they share no.
Yeah. Amityville.
Yes, exactly. That's
Is
the
this
only
like
thing they have in common.
Hellraiser?
Right.
Yeah.
This is also a really weird scene because it feels like it should be the end of the movie.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's like right there at the mid-act.
30 minutes in or something, 40 minutes in.
And then it becomes a completely different movie where it's Father Adamski going to visit Sonny in jail, becoming more and more convinced that he's possessed, and then unbelievably breaking him out of jail.
Right.
To get him to a church and perform an exorcism on him.
Court scenes and all this weird. I was like, what movie are we watching now?
So weird. And the breakout scene has him clocking a cop in the back of the head with a gun butt. And I'm like, well, you're going to jail for this, no matter what happens.
Yeah. I think the need to help a possessed person isn't going to hold up well.
No, but also the cop is like, you need to do this to me so that I have an alibi when you get caught.
So I will send you to jail. Just footnote there.
It's weird.
It's just so weird because it's so stunningly different.
Yeah.
And it's not just, this is a little weird for an Amityville Horror. It's weird for any ghost story movie. It's so much of a possession thing now, where it's like there's no house, there's no anything. It's all about his possession.
It's called Amityville Ii The Possession.
Yeah. I get that, but Amityville I had a possession. They didn't leave the house.
The
that was just the
possession
horror
in court. Isn't that what this last Conjuring was all about? The first time the devil stood trial.
The devil made me do it, which they actually use in this movie.
Yep.
So I had heard that was a phrase used in a different case first.
Probably,
but I don't remember.
That goes way back to like Salem. At least.
But I mean, the phrase "the devil made him do it" was like headlines back then.
Yep. I think that like Richard Ramirez.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, I think it was.
That's a Richard Ramirez thing.
Right, but Ramirez was late 80s.
Yeah. So. Well, I mean, I like to blame the devil on stuff that I'm not particularly proud of.
Sure.
All out excuse. Thank you.
It's like, I got super hammered and did a whole bunch of crazy stuff. You know what?
Me and the devil.
That devil.
Yep.
He's something.
So Sonny escapes the cop, of course. In I have to admit, kind of cool scene at the church where flames leap up and all this shit. And he goes back to the house, and Adamski follows him. And when he gets there, the house looks like it's been completely cleaned and abandoned. How long after this has it been? There's cobwebs in there, and
they got super movers, man.
Super movers, and then Spirit.
Right.
He's going to be using that house as a selling point for Halloween.
There's water stains and everything on the walls and all that. And I wish they had said something or made some comment to the effect that, the evil of the house is already aging it and all that stuff. We do get a pretty good, black oil coming out of the wall scene.
Yeah.
Actually, a lot more effective than from the first movie.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I have an ex-wife, and her family is a little bit wonkers, and they claimed that they had something goofy going on in their house, and there was oil, and that there was oil seeping from their walls.
Well, I'm collecting that and selling that. Oil's in the house.
Is this Did this happen while you were with them or
Yeah.
before them? Oh,
Yeah. So when I went and saw it, there was definitely some oily substance on the wall. But by this time, they had said that they had cleaned it already. But it did look like something oily had been on the drywall. So I don't know. And then they also said that when that happened, that a bird had got into their living room and flew without making any noise. And that it just flew out.
did you? Now you say this like they claimed.
They claimed.
Do
I
you-
didn't see
do
the
you
bird.
Believe any of it?
No, probably not. They were all whack.
Did you immediately start beating on their children?
I should have.
Right. What'd you do to the fucking walls?
Is that your bird?
That would have been the appropriate response.
I think so. When Sonny attacks Adamski from the ceiling, I was like, "This is fucking amazing."
Yes.
I was.
Yeah.
This is the coolest scene in the movie. In fact, this whole scene at the end in the house is worth a lot of the weirdness of the first part of the movie that you're kind of like, I don't know. But this was like bonkers exorcist stuff. I really loved it.
It was good.
I thought it was a very fun film overall. I mean, compared to the
Compared to
first
the first one?
Yeah.
The effect of his face splitting at first and getting the big cut and then splitting open and
Yeah.
revealing the demon, I fucking loved that.
Yeah.
Even though the demon looked a little goofy.
Well, yeah.
No, the practical effects were really good.
Yeah, especially for, the time.
Yeah.
82, and $5 million budget. That's not too bad. So this movie, I think, has been fairly compared to The Exorcist, except for the ending where Adamski pulls a complete Father Karras and tells the demon to take him.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I was like, wow, this is a pretty bold ripoff. I mean, that works so well in The Exorcist that everybody remembers it. It's not one of
Yeah.
those things you can lightly rip off.
No.
So,
Full commit.
but it did leave me then going, wait a second, because when we see Adamski at the end, his hand is starting to bulge and all this stuff, and I was like, this is where the franchise should have gone.
Oh,
I
man.
would much rather watch Father Adamski as a possessed priest traveling the countryside trying to fight that part of himself. And,
In 3D.
yes, all of that would have been better than any of the upcoming Amityville movies that we're going to be talking about.
So, but how does he repress it?
I don't know. That's the story.
Figure
right?
something
We
out.
Figure it out.
Like
yeah.
Blade?
He
needs a
he has to
Chris
cut
Christopherson
himself,
character.
and then spill holy water in his veins or something. I don't know.
Inject holy
Nice.
water.
I don't know. Okay, so that's the end of the movie. My question to both of you:
Yes.
Do we like this movie?
I liked it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I mean, I also have a soft spot for Italian and the
Yeah.
looks and the action. And this was right in that wheelhouse. I'm going, well, this is fun.
I'd go as far to say this is the best movie in an admittedly poor franchise.
That's
but
fair.
I think that this is the shining jewel of the Amityville franchise.
From now on, all Amityville shall be compared to this one.
Boy,
I laughed a whole lot.
I did too.
It was. You can't be mad if you laughing for two
Yeah.
what?
Yeah,
An hour and
exactly.
a half, an hour 45 minutes. It was good.
I was really enjoying this. Now, Tony K, who did
Yeah.
last episode with us, he really wanted to do this episode
Like,
instead. And I'm pretty interested in his take on this. So maybe
Yeah.
we'll do like a bonus episode where he can fill in a couple of the gaps and everything. I had forgotten that he interviewed Diane Franklin at
Oh, yes.
CryptoCon a
He
couple years
posted
back.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just came up last week, or
Yeah.
well, at some point recently in his post.
So, Carlos, I want to ask you specifically, because Eric, I think I know.
Hmm.
But, Carlos, you were raised in Pentecostal religion, you said?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on God and the devil? Are you a believer?
I am. But I'm not sure how ghosts and possessions play into it. I just don't know.
Do you see them as like actual entities, or you just believe in a force of good and a force of evil?
No, they're up there.
Okay.
And down there. Would you like my complete theological view on
Absolutely.
You have 15 seconds. Go.
No, I do believe in a God and a devil, But it's like all of this other stuff, like ghosts and demons. Like, I don't know. It just seems like humans have crazy imaginations and we do things to our convenience and to suit whatever it is that we are trying to communicate. And same thing along with UFOs. And it's like, I just don't know. I don't
Wait
know.
a second. You believe in God and devil. You don't believe in UFOs?
Well, I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. Or do you?
That's fair.
I believe in UFOs more than I believe in God or the devil.
That's weird.
I just feel like, well, I don't believe that we've actually seen a UFO. Let's just say I believe in life on other planets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nah. Yeah, that too. I mean, but what do I know?
Statistical improbability to only have one
Right.
planet with life in the universe.
Yeah. Yeah. But like this whole demon and that's a big, because Pentecostals love to, well, back in 80s and 90s, they're one of their key things was being saved to avoid damnation with the whole fire and brimstone, and you're going to hell and there's a constant torment. So all of the teachings were guided to avoid that. So, that's a whole lot to think about. But if I want to say that I do believe it, well, maybe, but I think that's just dogma? Is that the word? My dogma to say maybe demons and possessions are true. Because there was once that we were at church and this church was over and there was this girl sitting in the back pew. Church was over, and then she started screaming, and there was no one was around her, but she started screaming and talking this gibberish. And then the pastor started to get closer to her, and then she just full on said in this really crazy, scary voice, "Don't get near me." And then the pastor kept on getting near her, and then she fell down on the floor, and she was she was really, really round, so she kind of got stuck and wedged in between the pews. But she was trying to roll across the floor, but she got stuck. And then the pastor went and did the whole laying of the hands and the praying. And I saw this. I was like 10 feet away. If I had had popcorn, I would have been enjoying popcorn watching this.
How old were you when you saw this?
I was about 13, 14. And then this whole thing happened for a good, 10 minutes. And then she got up and she's like, "Okay, I'm good." And then her parents just took her home, and then that was it.
Wow. And he gave them $50 and he said, "All right, in 2 weeks, we'll do this all over again."
Maybe. I don't know. It's
Eric,
weird.
your thoughts on possession?
Thoughts on possession? It's a state of mind. I mean, if you want to feel a certain way, you will generate enough in your head that you probably convince yourself of these things. There are plenty of examples of people speaking in tongues or doing anything they want to call a religious experience. But the idea of all I can picture is like a bunch of demons sitting in hell going, "God, what do you want to do today, Fred?" "I don't know. I'm real bored." You know what I think we should figure out a thing to do? Because there's no end goal in possession movies, at least. You don't go up there and go, "Well, I'm going to take this kid over. I'm going to do it really quietly so I can live their life." No, they don't do that. They come in and have them pee all over the place and walk
I
up
thought it was to
downstairs.
damn their eternal soul. I guess I thought was the end game on all of this.
There could be that, but that seems like a really, really hard way to do it. If you could possess the body, why not just go, "You know what? I want this soul." I was in Twin Falls, the large bridge over the Snake River Canyon. It's called the Prime Bridge. The guy's on the Prime Bridge now. Let's go. Oh, leaning over a little. Push. Mission accomplished. Grab that soul.
That's just murder. That's not suicide.
But no, they grab the soul as you're going out. I mean,
I don't
that
think
makes
you understand how souls work, Eric.
And
do
see,
souls
you're
work,
just
Ellie?
making crap up now because you
You didn't even get to bang your sister before that happened.
exactly like, damn it.
All
So
right.
yeah, so I would say in the end, the idea of a spiritual something beyond our understanding to me sounds possible.
Right.
There could be shit we just don't know about. But the idea of a bunch of demons getting together and, we need to, our soul numbers are down. And I got to clock out here in 2 hours. Can we get another Zoll? Just seems
Soul quota.
weird.
It's another
has
day in the
not been
office.
met.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I'd like to believe that there is something out there, a benevolent God looking. Well, shit. There
he's
he is.
calling.
Looking at the world right now, I find that hard to believe that there is anybody out there watching out for us. But my real problem comes, of course, with organized religion and churches.
Well, yeah.
I'm just not a fan of that. Back to this movie. A number of discrepancies in the film we should talk about. None the least of which is this never happened. None of this shit happened.
That's right.
So
Did they even try to pretend it was based on a? I mean, I don't remember seeing based on a true. Is
it
it at the
says
beginning
based
of the movie?
on the book Murders in Amityville, which is
okay.
the story of the DeFeos. So, but one of the big things, we see them move in, however many days before all this goes down.
Yeah.
But the real life DeFeos lived in the house for 9 years before Ronald snapped and killed everybody.
They reduced that to 9 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
If you listen to the last episode, I went through a lot of Ronald DeFeo's killing spree details, but a quick reminder is that he originally claimed innocence. Mm-hmm. Then he claimed that he heard voices telling him to do this, which is what all of this Amityville nonsense is based on. And that turned out to be a big fat lie. His lawyer convinced him to say that in the hopes that they could make a bunch of money on a book and film deal.
Ooh.
And this is the same lawyer that would then concoct the bullshit Amityville horror story with George and Kathy Lutz over a couple of bottles of wine. So DeFeo's lawyer is the one who sat down with George and Kathy Lutz and came up with the Amityville horror story and then tied it into his former client's stuff. So after all of this, many years later, DeFeo claimed that it was him and his sister Dawn who killed the family because he was sure their parents were going to kill him. But then she killed the younger siblings because they were witnesses, and he flew into a rage and killed her. Now, that all sounds like nonsense, except that the lead investigator, he said there are 2 guns used in these murders, and that's never brought up in either of the movies.
Oh.
So, let's see. And there were rumors that had never been proven, of course, that he and Dawn had incestuous relations.
There
So
you go.
that's
Where there's
fun.
smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
Right. DeFeo died on March 12th of 2021.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Hey, I got taglines.
Oh, you got taglines
want
for the film?
taglines.
All right.
If these walls could talk, they would shriek.
Oh, I like it.
In the Amityville horror, the Lutzes got out of this house alive. This family was not so lucky.
Oh.
In 1976, a New York family fled this house with their lives. The previous owners weren't so lucky. This is their story,
Oh, it is there? Sorry.
apparently. And, 2 more. Don't forget to check under the bed.
Nice.
What? The night of February 5th, 1976, George and Kathleen Lutz fled their home in Amityville, New York. They got out alive. They're living nightmares, shocked audiences around the world in the Amityville horror. But before them, another family lived in this house and were caught by the original evil. They weren't so lucky. This is their story.
Holy cow.
I want
is-
that poster.
That one probably needs a red
editing.
line edit. We talked a little bit about Ed Warren and Lorraine Warren, who inspired, of course, the Conjuring films and all of that. They served as demonology advisors for the
Nice.
film. And the Amityville case was their most infamous investigation and was adapted for the opening scene of The Conjuring 2. So the 16% Rotten Tomatoes critics had me looking up some reviews.
Oh, good.
Roger Ebert said, this movie is actually slightly better than the Amityville horror, maybe because it rips off superior source material.
There we go.
He also said, for a movie that's filled with crucifixes, monsignors, confessionals, and Bibles, Amityville 2 is curiously inattentive to such theological questions as A, why would the desecration of a pagan burial ground be offensive to evil spirits as opposed to benevolent ones? And B, why does this case cause for a Catholic priest instead of a Mohawk medicine man?
Wow.
And then finally, Richard F. Shepard of the New York Times said, one does not want to give the plot away. Indeed, when you see it, you may not be able to give it away yourself. But suffice it to say that Jack Magner, as the demented son, manages to imbue his role with an effective sense of being lost and of being evil. Burt Young as a strong-minded father who beats his wife and his children and then apologizes seems to be evil enough in the household without help from unseen forces.
Yes.
So that is the Amityville 2. I got to say, I don't think I need to see this movie again, but now I have seen it a total of like 5 times.
If
And
you
that's
watched
that's
it-
a lot.
Yeah,
I saw it when
good.
it did come out, and I remember thinking the effects were corny and that, I do remember being just weirded out by the incest scene and all of that stuff. Watching it as an old pervert, I was like, ugh, this incest scene is working for me. No, I was really struck by how much I miss those old school practical effects.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
just had a blast with this movie.
Yeah, it was fun. I thought it was a lot more entertaining than the first one. And
Yeah.
much more of a movie than the remake
Yeah.
of the original. So
It'll be interesting once we get into Amityville 3, which is the last of the theatrical releases. And I think that it kind of sits as its own trilogy that kind of works if you ignore a lot of the inconsistencies. And then we get into straight to video, made for TV on one of them.
There you go.
The real string of horror begins.
yeah,
I did not know there was that many.
so many.
37, I believe, right now.
Yeah, I think I saw one that looks like an Assault on Precinct 13 kind of film.
Yeah,
Like the
Amityville
Amityville-
Assault.
I mean, yeah, it's like the police station or something.
I can't wait. I'm hopeful that we get these going and we get enough listeners that we can reach out to some of the creators of these later ones
yeah,
and
yeah.
say,
Cool.
hey, you want to be our guest host for your movie?
Pretty sure I can guarantee we'll get at least one.
Yeah. Yeah. Carlos, you want to pimp anything? You want to tell us what you're working on next? You want to...
Sure.
Yeah.
So listen to my podcast. I just started recording my fat face. So I'm actually on YouTube now. I didn't want to, but too many people said you need to start putting video up. So CZ Media Podcast on YouTube and all of your favorite podcast apps. And it's just me talking to a bunch of different people. I don't have a co-host. I talk to athletes, business owners, artists, gamers,
Everybody from Strange Eons Radio.
everyone multiple times. So yeah, just check it out.
I notice you've got episode 100 coming up, and I want to be your
100th guest. All right, you got it.
All
I'm
right.
not. I'm as of recording. I just posted episode 92.
Right.
So that's. I saw that the other day. I was like, holy cow, I've done this 92 times.
That's amazing. Congratulations. I'm a avid listener of your podcast, and I really like that it's just kind of a stream of conscious discussion.
Yeah.
I won't even say that you hate which guest of mine you hate.
You
I
know
won't
what?
say it.
And here's the thing: there have also been episodes that I thought, oh, I'm not going to like this episode, and then I end up loving it because it's just an interesting conversation. So you keep
Well,
the
I appreciate
conversation
that.
rolling in. So
I
I'm a
should
big
start
fan.
preparing, I guess.
Right. Also, I imagine this is not the last we'll see of you on this podcast.
Oh, I would love
bring
it.
you on for one of the really bad ones.
Count me
coming
in
up
for
too.
mimosas.
Fantastic.
Cool. Excellent.
All right, so that is it. Thanks for listening to the Amityville Horror Picture Show. We will be back in probably 3 or 4 weeks talking about Amityville 3D.
Nice.
See y'all.
Adios.
Transportation and other considerations for Strange Eons Radio produced by Pan Am Airlines. When you think of traveling, think of Pan Am. You can't beat the experience. Guests of Strange Eons Radio stay at Econo Lodge Everett. It's an easy stop on the road, you know what we mean. Strange Eons Radio is recorded live in front of a studio audience. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a positive review on your favorite podcast app. Sit, Ubu, sit.
My name is Patty Camarado. I was friends with Allison DeFeo, the girl who was murdered with the rest of her family here in 1974. This I'm going to show you is the mysterious red room that's so noted for in the book. This door, which they say was never here, was here, is here, always will be here, I suppose. This is the red room. Nothing more than a storage area where Allison and her brothers and I used to keep toys. Just red, you know? There's never any feeling of spirit presence or ghosts or any sort of thing like that. It's just a play area. Used to keep toys. Nothing more than that.